Geordi LaForge is back in the brand new Star Trek Picard prequel comic named Countdown. Let's dive into the preview of this comic and see what it's all about. Hey everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. Thanks to an interview by SyFy Wire, Mike Johnson, co-writer of Star Trek Picard Countdown, sat down with them for an interview about the upcoming prequel comic that is due to release next week on November 27th. Before we dive in, this comic is published by IDW and you can find the preview pages of it via the link to SyFy's website in the video description. I would recommend checking this one out as so far it looks to be a really cool comic. Okay, so we're shown 4 preview pages of the upcoming comic, the first page showing us 2 Romulan workers on the vineyards of Chateau Picard in 2386. This confirms what we previously knew from interviews with Patrick Stewart, in which he has 2 Romulan workers on the vineyard who not only help with the vines, but also help care for Picard himself. However, the interesting thing in these preview comics is not the Romulan workers, but we get a glimpse of Utopia Planitia in 2385, the Starfleet shipbuilding facility in orbit of Mars. Additionally, we get to see Commander Geordi LaForge with the new Starfleet uniforms. Now I love these uniforms and they really complement the Admiral uniform which was unveiled last month at Destination Star Trek Birmingham. They seem to be a mixture of Voyager, Season 1 Next Generation and the Enterprise jumpsuits to me, which makes a really nice change, and you can see how it evolves from the DS9 era uniforms that were previously worn by the Starfleet personnel. Now LaForge gets a transmission from a ship called the USS Verity, presumably Picard's new ship, and Geordi remarks that they'll want the latest, with his fellow officers saying that the first wave is ahead of schedule and they'll be in Romulan space by the end of the month. As they are at Utopia Planitia, this could be a wave of ships to help the Romulan people, which Geordi is presiding over. I have to say, it's cool seeing Geordi in a position where he's building waves of ships. Maybe we'll get some sort of cool ship designs in the future and not rely on 19-year-old designs like the Excelsior. I mean, come on Starfleet, come on. Of course, we then get to see Admiral Jean-Luc Picard in his new Admiral uniform. What is very interesting is that the bridge he is standing on looks like the bridge of an Odyssey Class starship. Now this is the class of starship which is the USS Enterprise F in the video game Star Trek Online. Now as this ship wasn't constructed until the year 2409, we can assume that they're not following the Star Trek Online continuity, which makes sense, but it's very cool to see a fan ship design makes its way to the forefront and be the ship that Admiral Picard commands. I love its bridge as well as I hope to see more of it, and we'll have to see when the full comic comes out next week. We actually see the 2 ship models on LaForge's desk. One appears to be the Sovereign class, and we can presume it might be the Enterprise E, and therefore we can presume what might be the Odyssey class is also on the desk, which is the USS Verity, might be, the Odyssey class, and future Enterprise F, I'm not sure. Take note, this is set in the year 2385, while Picard is set in the year 2399. There's quite a few many years in between here, so maybe the Verity becomes the Enterprise F at one point, or a ship of its class. Again, there's no confirmation just yet from his preview comic if this is the Odyssey class, but it's definitely what is the Odyssey class in Star Trek Online, if that makes sense. We can't technically concrete name it as the Odyssey class just yet, but it's something worth pointing out. Now the art in the previews looks gorgeous and has a very distinctive style to it, so credits to Angela Hernandez on continuing to make the Trek comics come to life. Now this is all we see from this preview, but there were some interesting comments made in the interview which we had to pick out. The comment that stood out the most was the following. This Picard story in the comic is actually one that was a possibility for showing some of the events in the show as flashbacks. This is interesting and probably means that the events of the comic will not be contradicted, as it's part of a story that makes up Picard and was considered to be in the flashbacks in the show, which would also suggest this comic is technically canon. There's been a great many discussion over whether Star Trek Countdown, or Star Trek Picard Countdown, is actually canon. Maybe it is, I think definitely it's going to be, so we'll have to find out when issue 1 actually comes out next week. Star Trek Picard Countdown issue 1 comes out on 27th of November. We absolutely recommend you pick this coming up and we'll be covering it in extreme detail on the channel. If you want to keep up to date on the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to subscribe to Trek Central here on YouTube. You're going to visit our website, social media accounts, and even join our Discord server. All links are available via the description. I've been Captain Jack, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.